Anybody think we've done this before? So, welcome to this. We're running these webinars monthly, and I'm shining the spotlight on my members and people involved in my community that have gone through the experience or support people that have gone through the DAFT move. So, tonight we have the amazing Jen, and she's going to share with us the visa that gets you there, but then what? So, great to have you here this evening. So, to kick us off, tell us in the chat. I know we've had some comments, but anybody that's just joined, where are you joining from? Are you pre-move, mid-move? Are you packing like crazy? Are you having yard sales? Or are you already in the Netherlands? I can't see the chat now. So Jen, if there's anything else coming up, if you want to share with us.
Let's see here. The house is closing on the 28th. That's super exciting. That's nerve-wracking. Congratulations. I'm trying to pronounce the town that John is from. I'm learning Dutch right now, so I'm trying to I'm going through my alphabet letters to try to pronounce it correctly. But I don't know. I'm not gonna try.
No.
Den Bosch. Okay, great. I'm gonna go with that.
Lovely. Great to have you here this evening. So this session is about starting over abroad, building a business in the Netherlands, or getting ready to do that if you're not bringing an existing business with you. Your professional reinvention, an opportunity to pivot and change a little bit. But the main thing is it's about real life DAFT Visa experiences. And that's why we got Jen with us today. We are not legal, tax, or immigration experts, but we do know some good folks that are. So if you do need that support, we may well have the contacts for you. So meet Jen. I'm going to pass over to her in a second. Do scan that QR code and connect to her on LinkedIn. And I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to introduce Jen to you. So I run a Facebook community here in the Netherlands, and I think that's where we first met. And so it's for business owners and people moving here on the DAFT visa. So I'll go grab that link in a moment, and you're very welcome to join that and come and interact with some folks that are here or on the journey here. And I'm super protective of that group. It's just for business owners in the Netherlands because I don't think we get enough support from the government. But Jen popped up and she said she helped people get jobs here. And I was like, ZZPs, BVs, people on the visa as well. And I know that some of my own members within my own community, my buzz networking community, were struggling a wee bit. So I put her in touch with somebody who she's working with just now. And I'm not going to take away some of the secrets Jen's got to make you feel quite confident about yourself. And then I'm just going to let somebody else in. Let's have a look. Yeah, I'm going to let Carly in. And then she came along to one of my meetups that I had last month in Hilversum. She had a ball, I think, if you've watched her video review, made some great connections and also referred some other people. And then, yeah, she couldn't resist. She became one of my Buzz members. So I'm going to pass over to Jen now. And as I mentioned, if you missed the beginning, is pop your details in the chat, how we can connect to each other as well. This is about you connecting with some like-minded people and people going through it as well. So if you've got email addresses, whatever you'd like to share, LinkedIn's, anything like that, and put any questions in the chat as we go, and Jen will pick that up at the end. So over to you, Jen.
Okay, awesome. I know she did. She sold me on her Buzz Network and it was amazing. I have my little pin, see? I haven't put it on my purse yet, but let me share my presentation now. And like Julie said, I am a member, a very glad and happy member. She runs a phenomenal network of entrepreneurs and she knows everyone, literally everyone. And if she doesn't know someone, she will make sure that she knows them and connects you to them. So for anyone who is on the move over here and would like a really solid network of people that are vetted, Julie's your go-to lady. She's fantastic. Who I am, what my qualifications are. I was a burnt out American that was super sad and And I wanted a new life. And so I moved to the Netherlands on the DAFT visa. And the goal of the presentation is to give you some guidance and kind of what it is and how to go about it correct make. So here goes. Let's see. So my name is Jen. I have 16 years in career strategy and business to business sales. I originally started my career. Actually, I worked with at-risk youth in the United States, 16 to 24. They were homeless, pregnant parenting, in and out of juvenile hall, and they needed jobs. And so I learned very early on what transferable skills were and how to position somebody to find employment. From there, I grew into one of the largest staffing firms in the United States and placed people in high dollar roles throughout the globe. I've done a ton of CVs. I feel like I could do a CV in my sleep with the amount that I have done. And I moved to Utrecht March 3rd of this year. So I'm almost to my 6 month mark, and it is awesome. And to reiterate what Julie said, I am not an immigration lawyer, and please don't ask me about taxes. I won't know. Okay. And I'll research for you, but I have no idea. What I do is I strategize and I position and I make sure you are visible in today's market. And it is not as hard as you might think. Okay. What we are covering is the DAFT visa, is the Dutch American Friendship Treaty. It is the permit, what it gives you, the line that people miss, what has changed, especially starting this year, that's important, and then getting paid, because that's important, especially in the Netherlands. There are 3 routes and how to position for each. So ultimately, if you're going for an employer hire, the employer is going to be the end deciding factor, right? I can't decide that for you, but we can position it so that you get contact and have those connections and get in the room with the decision makers. The DAFT visa, little bit of a bummer. You're not super early anymore with the DAFT visa. Everyone wants to go to the Netherlands. So there were about almost close to 7,000 Americans that applied for Dutch permits, not the DAFT specifically, but for highly skilled migrant visa, work permits, things of that nature. And just through September of last year, there were 700 DAFT permits that were issued, which is more than doubled 5 years earlier. So there are tons of DAFT permits getting issued all the time to people, which is great news. You literally cannot get not approved for the DAFT visa. So that's fantastic. That is super awesome. Getting the permit is not the hard part. Getting paid once you're here is. Because getting into the country is much easier than getting paid. These are all figures from the IND, which anyone who's not here yet will become very familiar with because you will go there twice, two to 3 times to get your permits and stuff. What the DAFT visa gives you. So you need to have 4,500 euros, account for the conversion also. It's not $4,500, it is 4,500 euros. Invested in your own Dutch business account. A lot of people use Bunk or Revolut. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. And Bunk has been a great bank for me when I landed because I was waiting on my BSN number and it allowed me to open up my bank account, which allowed me to pay for my electricity and my water bill, which was fantastic. And then once I got my BSN number, I was able to update the Bunk account and they were like fantastic. The BSN number is basically the Dutch version of a social security number. It's right around 420 to 600 pounds, or excuse me, euros for the IND fee. And then it's the same thing to apply and to extend when you're up for a renewal. 2 years, that's fantastic. You got approved for it, your business plan. Good job. Here you go. Welcome to the country. You have 2 years to figure it out. And then DAFT applications are almost always approved. When it comes to the renewal process, you need to make sure that you have maintained your 4,500 euro account in your business account. And any income that you make sure that goes into that account. It's just easier to prove to the IND that you've made effort into making your business run, right? And then from there, you can transfer it into whatever account that you need to. But it is an easier place to track if it just automatically goes into that business account. Great news is your spouse or partner gets a permit with full access to the Dutch labor market. No employer sponsorship is required for them. I would like to put a very large caveat on this because we learned this kind of the hard way, which is if you do not speak Dutch at least an A2 level, you're going to be making minimum wage jobs. It does not really matter your skill set. The unemployment rate in the Netherlands right now is about 4%. Even on the shortage list, you still need to speak Dutch. My husband is in infrastructure. The job he has right now, they have 4 open positions. He was the only one that applied for it. And he got the job, but even they were like, you don't really speak Dutch. Like, we're desperate and we need you, but like, maybe not. And so he had to fight for it, for sure. He's very quickly learning Dutch. There's a Dutch man that works there who's single-handedly teaching him Dutch. Just like made it his mission. So that is that's very sweet. But keep that in mind if you guys are thinking you're going to come over here and it's going to be super easy for your partner to find a job. It is not. It will be a challenge, and you're going to need to know Dutch. The line on your permit. This is interesting. So you're working on a self-employed basis. You work as an employee, only allowed with a work permit. You cannot simply accept a Dutch offer and say that you're a freelancer. The employer would have to apply for a work permit for you. Most won't. It's going to be a little bit easier for that to happen if you're already in country, though, and you want to switch from the DAFT visa to, let's say, a highly skilled migrant visa or something like that. It will be easier to do that in country. Your partner can work for any Dutch company. You can't. You can't do that unless you're invoicing them through your own business. The dependent permit is the one with the free work rights. And then, so a lot of people that I work with, especially, and how my husband and I, when we got here, we were like, okay, so the one on the entrepreneurial visa. My husband is in infrastructure, and he was like, how do I find a job in the Netherlands? And I will say I hear that question a lot, and I know that question, it's near and dear to my heart. But it was the question that actually pays is how can I build work that I can bill for? And the cool thing about the economy that we're in right now is you have a global market that you can access. So it's really just about figuring out how to niche down and access that particular market. Every decision in your first year follows which question you're answering. But also it feels like I've been here like not that long. And so the time goes by very fast. It goes by very fast. And so to figure out that business, especially if you have some time in the States, is a great place to start. Network it earlier than downsizing. Network earlier than you start downsizing and selling your stuff. It's just the most important part, especially in an economy that has a 4% unemployment rate where everyone speaks English, but to get a job, you need to speak Dutch. The earlier you network, the better, the more success you will have. And then let's see. So what changed this year? The rules got enforced. January 1 of this year, they started enforcing its rules on false employment. So a lot of people were coming over here under the DAFT visa, right? And working for one company. But that one company was dictating when that person worked, what their hours were, what their rate was, blah, 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 all of that. And that is now recognized as false employment. And the government is doing kind of a sweep of a lot of the businesses. So you want to be very clear that you are your business. You're not working for them as a freelancer. You're invoicing them. You determine your hours. More than one client is great. One client can be a little, worried about it. Two clients, great. Awesome. That shows that you're the boss, that you're not an employee. And so a lot of the Dutch companies, because they're now getting fined and audited, are much more cautious when taking on ZZP or BV individuals because they don't want to run into this problem, which is the false employment. So when you're positioning yourself, make sure that that is very clear, that you have distinguished yourself as a business and you like this is your entity, this is your KVK number, which is your business number, basically that you register with the Chamber of Commerce over here. Um, your clients is exposed. That's what I'm talking about with the Dutch company. They've been cautious about signing freelancers. You want to make sure that you are very open and upfront and that you know your business and that you're the one kind of driving the conversation. They're going to respect that more. One client is a risk, two clients is better. Two clients is always better. You determine your hours, you determine your rate, all of that good stuff. And then when it comes up for renewal, it's much easier to show this package of work that you've accomplished in the last 2 years with multiple clients. None of it stops you from working. Nobody panic. It just shifts and pivots how you work and how you make sure that you're visible. Um, the thing that protects you is more than one client. And you can now the world is your oyster, literally. You're in the Netherlands on an entrepreneurial visa, the world is your oyster. You can invoice globally. There's a couple of different invoicing quirks that you need to handle, but they're not that hard. And I do always tell my clients, I'm like, you want to live in Europe and make American money. That's who you want to bill. You want to live in Europe and make American money. But you want to do it on your own tools and your quote, your invoice, your terms and conditions so that a business knows they're signing with another business. It alleviates the fear from them and it allows your renewal to be very successful. And then visible marketing. This also is great. If you don't have a website or a landing page, get one. And like, do you have a business Instagram account? Do you have a Facebook Instagram account? And do you have a rate that is comparable to other people in your niche that you're going for? And it's just a marketing plan. It's just how you show up in the market. And then there's a quote, I have it on my board, and it says, the mind that perceives a limitation is the limitation. So sometimes that can be overwhelming for my overthinkers. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink the limitation or the no limitation. Just realize that the world is your market. Now, once you come to the Netherlands, the world is your market. But you want to make sure that you have a strong foundation of visibility so that you already have a runway of making money when you're here so that you can afford to stay. There are 3 routes to income. This is what we've kind of been touching on. Dutch and EU clients are going to be the slowest to start because you will have just moved to the Netherlands. Either you're here or you will have recently got here, so you're going to be new to the area. You're the new kid on the block. They're going to be like, who are you? Why are you here? Why should I trust you? Little Dutch goes a long way. Little Dutch goes a very long way to winning trust and them kind of understanding that you're here for the long haul, that you're not just there on a stopping point or a stopover point. And they are the strongest at renewal, by the way. The EU and the Dutch clients are great to have. And there's also quite a few countries to pick from, by the way, for that little, scenario. US and global clients, fastest to revenue, especially if you've already been billing clients back home. Like if you're already a freelancer and you're already billing clients, my recommendation would be to ask all of those clients or anyone that you think your market would be great in the Netherlands with, stress test it in the US. And if you don't have any friends that would want to buy it, ask your friends who they would know. Build your network and stress test your idea. And then route three would be convert to employment, right? Once you're here and you're like, I don't really want to be an entrepreneur. This whole thing sucks and I don't like it. I want to go back to working for a company. It's absolutely doable. It's actually pretty easy to switch your visa to a highly skilled migrant visa. But you will have 2 years to have learned Dutch, and you will have also have had 2 years to have networked and made those connections. And then there's a list, and I can pop it in the chat as well, from the IND, a list of all sponsored employers in the Netherlands. So if you're here, if the DAFT visa is just to get you here and then you want to switch it to a highly skilled migrant, you can do that. And you can start learning and looking at those businesses as well. The American approach isn't going to work here for some obvious reasons, but also, right, we have an American resume. We don't want that. We want to translate it into a European CV. And it's written for the market and not just the market, for each individual job that you're applying to. There should always be little tweaks and changes because they really want something very personal that they can see that you took the time to write for them and they will respond to that. Named, you're not going to want to apply through portals. You're going to want referrals and conversations. I don't know if you can tell this from the webinar, but I'm a little bubbly and I've got a big personality. And so I will talk to everyone, any recruitment agency I see, I will stop in on the street and I'll be like, hi, I'm Jen, like blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you're like a lot, but also they'll talk to me. They'll talk to me and they'll give me inside information and they'll be like, you know what? Actually, in all fairness, we're only going to hire Dutch people. And I'll be like, great, that's awesome. That's fantastic. But the more conversations you have, the better. And I never, ever, ever leave without asking who they know that I can talk to. Always. I always ask who they know. Um, a LinkedIn profile. Oh my God, Julie is like amazing at LinkedIn. So ask Julie. I will give you like some basic, like, it might be halfway good. Julie's way better at LinkedIn. But she also knows a ton of people, and that's how the recruiters are going to find you. And you want to be very active on LinkedIn. And then staying vague about your status. Like, I'm in America, so I don't really want them to know that I'm not there yet, blah, blah, blah. You're me, like, go away. You know what I mean? That's annoying. Either be super upfront with it or let them know that this is my plan. I'll be there in March. And they'll be like, okay, great. Well, talk to me when you're here. Wonderful. I'll talk to you when I'm there. Also, who do you know in the meantime before I get there that I can talk to? They can either say, oh, well, what are they going to do? You've never met them. They might say no, or they might give you somebody great. And so you're usually not being rejected. You're being filtered out before a person reads it if you don't do those basic things. And if you're currently employed in the States, you can change your LinkedIn. You can be a little sneaky about it and say it's open to recruiters in a certain area without your employer seeing it. Just in case you don't know that. Maybe not sneaky. Maybe a little sneaky. Anyways, that's beside the point. Okay, so what actually works over here? Name specifics, not a $100,000 job in Europe. Me too, girl. Me too. That's probably not going to super happen. So we're US to EU business to business sales is going to be open to opportunities in Europe. That's super vague. Nobody cares, right? I care about my dream. You might care about my dream, which I love that about you. But more than likely, I care about my dream more than you do. And it's the same thing with recruiters. Publish the rate in euros. Take every American thing off of every American thing that you own. Make sure it's in euros. Make sure you have the language down so that there's not anything that slips through the cracks and they're going to be like, oh, this person isn't even here yet. Shoot, I wasted 30 seconds of my time today looking at this person. Show up where where the work is decided. If you have like I don't know, a coffee cup that's tailored to somebody's name and you're showing up at uh, like a shoe retailer, not super smart. They're not going to buy your coffee cup. You're going to want to go to the apothecaries and all the different general stores and that sort of thing. You want to go to where your specific business is going to be decided. And you can start researching that in the US. You can absolutely start researching that. Find a list, connect with them on LinkedIn, connect with them on social media, send pictures, do the whole thing. Start stress testing your idea before you even leave. I left with, like Julie said, I had like three new connections from my first buzz meeting. I was like, this is the place to be. She didn't even need to sell me on her spot. I was like, fantastic. You know everybody. You're also the queen of LinkedIn. I looked at her LinkedIn and I was like, okay, she's super brilliant. And she also knows everyone. I need to be around her, and it's helped me level up my game. So if you're not in rooms where people are leveling up your game, go away from those rooms because you're going to be in a new country trying to make new money. And unless somebody's pushing you to be the best, you don't need to be around them. And then if you do hear from a recruiter, follow up with them. Thanks so much for talking to me. Thanks so much for denying me or telling me we can't work together. Who do you know that might be interested in my services? It's super personal. It takes like 2 seconds and nobody does it anymore. It's very rare, especially if they're really tailored to any conversation you may have had with that person. And then, as I've said this a million times in this presentation already, but ask for an introduction, not necessarily a job. Who should I be talking to? If you can't carry my product or aren't interested in my product, do you know someone who might be? Because you've been in country for 2 years. You moved when you were 22. That's fantastic. Do you have a professor? Do you have a friend? What, ask them who they might know. Um, and then three things about money for your renewals. Okay, so you do get a tax break or a tax deduction after 1,225 hours. So if you do not have a tracking system, that's not smart. Get a tracking system. I'm sorry, I didn't know how to say that nicer. Get a tracking system. The second you start your whatever, I'm making content, I'm posting content, I'm responding to content, I'm setting up automations, I'm building my website, I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. Make sure that you're tracking the hours so that you can show the IND what you've done. Or when you go to submit your taxes, you can say, yes, I have worked 1,200 hours. Make sure, right? And if it's the same thing every day, it kind of looks a little sketchy, try to put what you've done in the day for that actual day. Just track it from week one. It's great. You are going to still file in the US. It doesn't mean you're going to pay taxes in the US, but you do have to file. So don't forget about that. And then there's a lot of difference. You'll hear a ton about ZZP versus BV. BV is fantastic if you're already making 60,000 euros or more, because then you're payrolling yourself and you can move money around. But if you are not already making 60,000 euros with your own money, don't do the BV, because then you're paying taxes on money you may or may not be making yet. Start with the ZZP, and then I hope you all the success in the world, and I hope you make 100,000 euros a year. Then you can switch it to the BV. But until that happens, don't do it. You're just setting yourself up for a tax nightmare. That I do know about taxes. Anything else, I know nothing. But I do know that. My first 90 days of what I would do. So the whole reason my business exists is My relocation coach did exactly what she was supposed to do and promised she would do, which is she picked us up and she got us to country and then said, "Congratulations, you're here. I'm so excited for you. Enjoy your life." And I'm not a trust fund baby. I've worked hard for my money, but I'm not a trust fund baby. And we used all of our savings, and it was way more expensive than we had been told. And I realized that there was a huge gap in the relocation industry. No one was talking about income, and nobody was talking about the job sectors, what's needed, what you actually need, the real nitty-gritty, unromantic, like nobody talked to me about like how to make money with a croissant and a coffee by a canal. I got the coffee and croissant at the canal and I was like, sold. Definitely want that. But I didn't get the unromantic how to make money over here version of it. And I wish I had been told that. And so that is where my business has come from and stemmed from because I got here and then I kind of went broke. So, because we started with a whole different business plan when we got here, because we were told by our relocation coach, they were like, "Yeah, your business will be approved and it'll be great." And I was like, "Awesome." And then we got here and I was like, "That was terrible advice. Absolutely terrible advice." So my goal is to make sure that everyone can come to the Netherlands, and if you choose, you can go back to the US. But if you don't want to, you shouldn't have to. So my the first 90 days from if you land here, personally do this 90 days before you land here. But if you're already here, this is what I would do. First 2 weeks, you're going to register, get your business account, get your insurance. Nothing really is going to move forward until you do that anyways. But you're going to rebuild your CV and your profile. You're going to pick your sector and you're going to set your rate, double your prices. You should always double your prices. And day 31 to 60, 20 named conversations, not applications. Don't send it into the void and hope for a miracle. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Don't do that. You'll be sorely disappointed and sad. People really love tailored conversations that you have put the effort into noticing, and you will get far more traction with that approach than like spray and pray. That's not, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's be way more structured with how we're going to go about it. But then you're going to invoice and you're going to get that. It's going to go into your business account. Woo! Your visa just literally got renewed for 2 more years. So congratulations. You don't have to leave for 4 years, but you do have to make money. So now you're going to find a second client because now you've got in your rhythm and now you know what to do. And now you can access everything. And there's different like little AI research tips that you can use. There's all sorts of different things, but the easiest and best way is to talk to everyone and always ask who they know. Never take no for an answer. I mean, I do believe in consent, but like in the networking, don't take no for an answer. Always ask who they know. Always. And then once you get 2 clients, then they're going to refer and blah, blah, blah. And now you have built your European empire, which I am so proud of you. 2 clients, not one. That one decision protects your permit and it protects your income because the Netherlands is not a low cost of living country. It is higher than you're thinking, and it is absolutely doable, but with the right strategy. You don't want to go in unprepared, and you don't want to, what's that, the journey, like that song, like I came in with a hope and a prayer. Don't do that. Come in with a plan. Come in with a plan. And then that's kind of what I have. But you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can email me, and I've got like a free European job audit guide. It doesn't cost anything. I can send it to Julie, and she can send it, or I can pop it in the chat, whatever. But I love the Netherlands. It's beautiful. I'm so excited for Christmas. Ugh, I can't wait. But it's really fantastic. It's a real joy to be over here, and I just think if we have a strategy and we have a blueprint to work on, it's much easier than coming over and being like, everyone speaks English. It's going to be great. Mm-mm. No, Don't do that. Learn some basic Dutch. And also it makes the Dutch people much more comfortable to want to come up and engage with you anyways, because they know that you've actually put effort into a little bit of their language. And then they'll just switch to English anyways because they're gonna be like, Dutch is super hard. It's okay, we know, but thanks for trying. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know, Julie, is that any, do you want anything else from me? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, wonderful. So, thank you so much. What I'm going to do now is I think we're going to just have a look walk through the questions together, and then I'm going to switch over to me. So, I just want to because some of these are my experiences as a Brit that's been here 8 years next week. So I just want to make sure that nothing's changed with Jen's experience. Yeah, on my birthday and it was raining. So first question, let me just quickly go through this. We were talking about Dutch classes, and free Dutch classes. Now I've tried Dutch a few times, and I like languages, but I just seem to find myself busy with doing other things like speaking with non-Dutch people. So Jen, tell us about your experience with Dutch classes.
Okay, so I work with language online and then I attend it's every Thursday. It's late in the evening, my time, but it's early y'all's time back in the States. And it's a free language cafe that Lingua Nexus puts on. And she's fantastic. She has traveled all over the world. She lived in Norway for a long time and she's back in LA helping her mom, but she speaks Dutch fluently and she brings everybody on for a Thursday night, like virtual coffee thing. And everybody at their different levels, they kind of put in their different levels, and then you get sectioned out into groups and you can actually practice, which is really nice. I do also two one-on-one hour lessons as well, and my Dutch teacher is very great. She's very focused on my pronunciation of the alphabet. So she's like, "No, you're wrong," which is fantastic. I love the Dutch. They're like, it sounds terrible, but she's like, she doesn't mean it in a bad way. She's beautiful and she's wonderful and she's really helped me.
So I popped in the chat that I did do free lessons through my local council. I'm pretty sure that was before COVID. Yeah, it was before COVID. So I don't know if they're still there. And don't think that you're going to go to those lessons and think, I'm going to meet some of the native English speakers. You're going to meet people from all over the world. So if you can find them, do go and get involved. But it is very focused on learning Dutch. Also, the local Taal Cafe, and they do them in most libraries across the Netherlands, but you're going to need some basics to be able to get involved in the conversation. I also had it's a charity here. I'm in Leiden, which is between Amsterdam and The Hague, and they have a charity, and it's all retired people. Except the latest guy I had was retired history professor, and I'm not really interested in history, so I used to come home and tell my husband all the stories I'd learnt that day. But he took me out and we got to visit local places, and when, like Jen said, when you're one on one with somebody, there's no quickly looking it up on Google Translate. That is how you're going to learn. And one other thing, I've just been to a workshop this afternoon and there was a Dutch lady there, and I said, we were just talking about the fact that I don't speak much Dutch but I understand a lot, is when Dutchies do switch to English. I've seen so many posts about non-Dutchies going, "Oh, I'm so offended. I was really trying." There's many reasons why they do that, and it's not because you're struggling and they haven't got any patience. Sometimes that might happen, but generally, I'm going to be very general here. Is they're trying to help you,
Mhm.
and the other one is they might like to speak English as well. So don't. So do keep trying. I had a pin badge and I need to get it out again, and it says "Spreek Nederlands met mij," and people used to read it and then laugh, and I was like, "No, I'm serious," because I was in my learning phase at the time, which has been gone. I need to go find that again. All right. So that's a bit about language. And I feel like we're all a little bit above 25 years old. I can't see some people. Um, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And I would say is make friends with the neighbors and things like that. And people will be generous with you. You learn a Goedemorgen and things like that and Dankjewel, and people will really help you. So it is tough. And if you're not ever in the language field, it can really be that turn in the brain that's just be generous with yourself. So it can be quite tough.
And I will say, like, when I go buy groceries, like I said, I'm a little bubbly. And so there's like the lady who like checks them out. She always asks me about my Dutch lessons. And then there's always somebody else in line who will be like, "Oh my God, you're taking Dutch, good for you." And they'll like totally talk to me. It's really cute. It becomes like this whole grocery store excursion. So like they're actually like really, they're super friendly and very nice about it. And they're very supportive.
You've reminded me of a story. I went to the local market. I was in my first year of being here, and I wanted to buy haddock, which has got the in there, and I
Yeah.
really couldn't do it. And everybody was joining in, and they were like, and they were like, we're not far from Scheveningen, which is at the coast in The Hague. Everybody joined in. So if I was going to be upset about being wrong, everybody in the market wanted to help, bless them, and
Aw.
I did get the haddock I wanted. No herring for me, thank you very much. Not tried it, don't want to. Okay, so totally changing tack now. We're gonna go to talk about BVs over ZZPs. So I know Sharon had mentioned about that some Dutch companies really don't want to take on ZZPs because they're worried about the sort of hidden and unemployment, unemployment. So yes, there has been a change in the law, and a friend of mine who's lived here 20 years, I think. She's British, but she's married to a Dutchie and she's fluent and everything. She is a nurse and she has gone permanent employee. But otherwise, if you're fractional and less than a full-time hours, but Jen can share a bit more light on the full-time hours because I'm not fractional. So is it 40 hours?
Yeah.
So you need to be under 40 hours
Yeah.
for somebody to take you on as a
Mhm.
freelancer on
Yeah.
fractional. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Okay.
can't be full time because then you become an automatic employee of them.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then that audit gets triggered and they
Yeah.
get fined and the whole thing becomes then yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want that.
No, not at all. One other thing, and then I'm going to come back to the questions, is there is a difference around the structure of the company of ZZP and a BV, and one of them is a driving license. So I do want to highlight that. Can you share a bit more about that?
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the BV is fantastic for the driver's license because the Netherlands has one has one of the hardest driving license tests ever. It's like 3,000 euros and it's like passing the bar in the Netherlands. Like half of the people are gonna fail. It's super conceptual and it's very like they really want people on the road that can drive, which is fantastic, right? It's totally amazing. If you come in under a BV, you can just switch your US license to the Dutch license, which is great. If not, you gotta take the test. Or I did hear this, I'm not promoting this, but I did hear it, that you can go to Germany and switch your license in Germany and then just come back and they'll switch it to the Netherlands. I'm not saying you should do that, I'm just saying it's an option, okay? It's just what I heard.
Yeah, because the reason I asked Jan to answer that question is because I'm British, so it was a different process for me. There is a time limit that you need to register your business. Is it within the first 6 months on the DAFT Visa?
Yes, it is the first
Yes.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. You can work for a client before registering, but that is really the tipping point when you're just going to get your ducks in a row and get sorted. But I do have a neighbor of mine who's American who didn't expect to be on the DAF visa, and now she's missed out on a driving license. So, and she has taken lessons, and there's the theory to do. So, if that's important to you, I just wanted to flag that. But otherwise, there's been a lot of conversation in my membership WhatsApp group about I wish I hadn't been a BV, wish I hadn't been a ZZP. So be very clear and get a professional to guide you through that, even though a lot of people said it's straightforward with the information that's available. So don't let a profession be very sure about which professional you take on. And I would say get some very good recommendations.
Yes.
Got to do that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's touch on cost of living, healthcare, things like that. So I think the cost of living's expensive here, but I was just back in the UK. Yeah, that was expensive. Healthcare is non-existent in the UK, so we're not going to talk about that. But for you guys, I believe it's tens of thousands of dollars. So coming here is very different. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so my husband and I, we signed up for health insurance, and it is for the whole year. We have a $350. I I know I'm saying it wrong. But the word that I'm familiar with is deductible.
yeah,
So it's like a $350 deductible, and then he and I, for both of us, for health insurance is 350 euros a month for both of us. And that's full coverage. And I went and going to the doctor's office was one of the most pleasant experiences of my life. I'm pretty sure it healed like American trauma. But there was, I went in and I was like, hey, like I just got my BSN number and like I'm looking for an appointment, which I'm assuming is like at least 2 months out. And the lady was like, you must be American. We can do it tomorrow. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, great. And then I like went to check out and she again gave me the sort of like, you're so cute look and was like, you don't need to check out. You're good. You can go away. And I was like, no, I'm here to like pay. And she was like, please leave. So it was a beautiful experience.
no, mine was slightly different. I wasn't bad, but when I went to my first doctors to register, I have a regular B12 injection. I'm anemic, and I said, "Oh, I need to see a nurse about that." And she just like looked at a clock and she said, "Oh, I can do that." And I was like, "Are you a nurse? Are you a nurse?" And because she was doing the reception. So I will say, and it has been discussed in many Facebook groups about the lack of washing hands and putting gloves on. So please don't be worried about that because I survived through COVID and many of us did here. In your bathroom in your rental apartment, there probably won't be hot water in your little tiny toilet. If you've got a sink in there. So things are slightly different than what you expect. But I did get my ejection straight off, and she wasn't just a receptionist, so that was good.
That's
But
so funny. She's like, roll up.
yeah, I was just like, oh my God. I had a similar experience in the dentist because in the UK I was a private and I was like ready to pay with my card, and they're like, no, just like you say, just leave, please. You're so cute. Take your credit card with you.
Yeah, it's literally, she was like, please go
Funny,
away. What are you still doing here?
funny, funny, funny. Okay, we're just going to carry on with these questions. So Patrick's there. Patrick, if you want to come off mute and talk us through it rather than having to hear me in my British accent, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, sure. Here.
I'm assuming this was his question about my art business.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you know anything about how that works as an artist, because I'm seeing some conflicting things where it's like you can have any business you want, but I'm seeing this little caveat that's like, but if you're an artist, it has to be like beneficial to the Dutch culture and approved, and there's different funding. There's like a little tiny thing on their website that like separates artists out, and I'm trying to understand that, if anyone knows.
Okay, so I'm working with somebody right now who is an artist and he does like augmented reality and virtual reality and everything like that. And his business wasn't flagged or put into that caveat as well.
I'm wondering though if you're like making and selling art as like a private artist, if that somehow is different. I suppose like I don't have clients. I make and sell art and I have an international business already that is existing and I was just gonna move it with us. Um,
I
but
would
yeah.
honestly, I don't personally know about that, but the IND is it's like they'll answer in English and they're really easy to get
Okay.
through to. So if you have that question, I would just call them directly and ask, and they can
Okay.
clear that up for you super easy, and then you don't have to go down the rabbit hole.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And I'm just going to skip back a little bit because I thought there was a question from Patrick saying, can a spouse and the DAFTA start a business or an NGO? And my answer was, yes, they can. They can, because there's all the things about different business structures, but yeah, they can, and they can, but as in applying, I don't know the best route because I'm not on the visa. So Jen, do you know about anybody that's come on the DAFT, set up their business, and then the partner, instead of being on a spousal visa, then set up a business? I don't see why that can't happen.
Yeah, I actually just have two clients that are doing just that. One of them is here on the DAF. The other one was doing temporary work with solar infrastructure throughout the Netherlands and Germany. She was like doing contract work because she is in desperate need. They didn't care that she didn't speak Dutch. They were like, that's fine. We need you. It's whatever. Just don't run any safety equipment. And they hired her. But she had a great business idea that has taken off really well, and she just switched over to DAFT, and it was no big deal.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And I like this question as well. But again, I'll need Jen's take on this about, can a DAFT visa be set up to permanent residency in the Netherlands? And I know, yes, it can. Because I've got people around me on the DAFT, and that is their aim to do. So it's to get through the renewal and then work through the process to become naturalized, if that's the
Yeah.
right term.
Yeah, no, that's our term. So that's where the two clients come in. Always get two clients, always. Because then you are not going to be flagged for the false employment. And if you get two contracts to employ or two I'm just gonna say contracts because the train left the station. I don't know what the word is in my head anymore. But anyways, if you get two of them, then you get an automatic renewal, right? That's gonna come up, and then you can get citizenship after 5 years. You do have to speak at an A2 level in Dutch, and you have to take kind of a history course through it, but it's a pretty simple process. There's something going through the government right now that they're voting on to make it 10 years instead of 5, but that will probably go into effect maybe next year.
John, I can't see you, John, but John's been sharing some of his experiences here and about the language thing, which is true. I'm in the Randstad, and English is widely spoken, but there's been situations where my husband lost his residence permit and asked me to come to the police station with him. I don't know. It's funny because we didn't cover this in my Dutch lessons. So I was just like, yeah, I'll come with you. And I was like, you've just got to go with that mindset of that they're gonna say some words, or you're gonna ask them to slow down a little bit, or just go, sorry, nog een keer alsjeblieft. But yeah, there really is, and also there's some assumptions about age groups, that younger people can speak fluent English, not necessarily. So yeah, I totally take on board what you said there. Also touched on customer service. I agree. Dutch are very direct, but you can still keep asking questions. I say to people all the time, as somebody who's not from this country, you keep asking until you understand. So you can ring the tax people and you can say, do you speak English? And if they say, no, I don't, is just give it 15 minutes to ring back again, or ask if they've got somebody around to do that. So you do need to be quite tenacious as somebody living in a foreign country and also as an entrepreneur. So you need to channel a bit of Jen for we're going to do this. And this is where community comes in. That if you get stuck and you need some help, is ask for help, and somebody will have been through it as well. John, I'd love you to come on camera and talk to us, because I totally agree about what you were saying about some people are painting this picture as much easier and cheaper than it really is. And this is why we're running these webinars, because it is about the reality. We're not here to tempt people onto the visa and make it sound like it's an easy thing. So John, if you're there, we'd love to hear from you. Unless he's making his dinner or something like that. If not, we'll carry on. Let's see if he comes and joins us. Okay. Oh, Stuck on an NS train with no staff and they called and spoke in English for me. Yeah. Yeah, that happens sometimes. And sometimes it's in the most difficult times that we really do need that language thing. So, but you can literally you can say in Dutch, can you help me? And this is where I find the Dutch language sometimes easy. Can you me help? It's it and when I get stuck, I use the English word and say it with a Dutch accent. I speak most languages that way. And I've not got thrown out of any countries just yet. Okay, all right. I'm just going to share a few things with you. So do stay with us and carry on popping your questions in the chat and we'll come back to them. If I get on the right screen, that would also help. All right, here we go. And everything's running slow now. Here we go. All right, I'm not going to go into too much detail about my journey because mine's slightly different, but I do want to share a few things. Am I on the right screen? That is the question. I'm not on the right screen. Let me just stop a second. Here we go. Okay, I just want to share a little bit about my experiences. They'll be slightly different to yours, but I'm going to be super excited of all the nationalities you're going to meet here because sometimes it absolutely blows my mind in a room of all the different people we meet. I'm trying to think back to Jen when you came to the Hilverston meetup. I mean, the speaker was French. We had some Dutch people. We had a Dutch lady who got a better English accent than me because she'd lived in the UK for 20 years, and I found that quite bizarre. I'm just trying to think what other nationalities we had. And this is what I love about the Netherlands. It's such a melting pot of nationalities. So I actually moved here, as I mentioned, 8 years ago. And I moved here to support my husband's career. And I didn't know how to run a business. And I could have done the easy thing, which was scuttle back into corporate career. I used to be in banking. And I was just thinking, well, I've moved countries. So let's just keep evolving. I never really aspired to be a business owner. I just sort of fell into it. And since then, I've formalized my training and got to learn more about. And every day is a learning day. So I would say, buckle up, get your caffeine down, yeah. And, it is a learning job, is being a business owner. It will get easier. But things will go slightly awry at times. And that's when you need your people around you to say, why does my website not work today? Why is this client ghosted me? All these sort of things. And they'll go, no, it's okay. It's happened to me as well. But also people to celebrate with it as well. So I understand the realities of starting over. And I support international entrepreneurs moving here. What I will say is you don't have to keep researching. This is why we're running webinars like this. This is why we have the Facebook group. And I've got another resource that I'll share with you in a moment, another free resource, another free community. Because the last thing we want you to do, and like Jen said, that I love that plan, but do the plan before you come here. Because I've seen people arrive and then gone, oh, I need to start a business and I don't really know what to do. And, with all the will in the world and, the curiosity and, how Jen and I and the rest of my community like to help people, you need to make some decisions about what your business is going to be. You need to test it in the market and make sure you can get some clients. Or if you're bringing your clients with you, is look to see how you can transition a little bit. Because I have met some Americans here that are working with American clients. They're working on American time. They're in a little bubble. They're not leaving the house. And when those clients drop off, where the new one's going to come from, because they've just kept themselves locked in. So please don't overthink it and please don't be stuck. I don't have all the answers. That's what I say to people, but I run brainstorming sessions every week and it's all about the hive mind. And again, if those people in that room don't have the answer, they'll be thinking about you. When they have the answer, they'll be straight in touch with you. So please don't do it on your own. So there's a little QR code there, and you can find out more about it. But within my community, both the Facebook group, we have little prompts, and I always say to people is ask a question. Any day of the week, just check that whether it's been asked already. And within my own buzz community, we co-work every week, and as I mentioned, we brainstorm. It's about real conversations. One gentleman I've got who's a member here in Leiden, he came to his very first meetup and he was walking out with me and looking a bit bemused. And I said, "How was it?" And he's like, "It's just so real." And I was just like, don't have the time, the energy, the inclination to be anything but real. And I've been to many networking events, and hopefully you've been to some good ones. But for me, it's not about taking the oxygen out of the room. Nobody wins any prizes for doing the most talking at my events, even me. I have to be quiet at times. And I bring expert speakers along because we're learning every day. So if you want in the right connections and you want introductions, it's the consistent environment to do that. So if I'd not already mentioned, I'm the founder of Business Networking. My Facebook community is over 2,000. I think we're going to hit 2,500 this month. And I've spoken to over 400 business owners through my weekly sessions, all different sizes, all different backgrounds, all different age groups, and taken those challenges together. And I look to share that knowledge around and help people in their journey. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. And I'm going to come back to you guys and see if there's any more questions. Anything Jen and I can help with. And what I'm going to do now, I think, is I'm going to stop the recording so people feel like they can speak a little bit more freely.